Hi, my awesome Beyond leaders. It's nice to be back and continue with hosting extraordinary managers, entrepreneurs, innovators, and trendsetters. I hope you had a great summer and that you really took some time off to regenerate, enjoy some time with family and friends, and your loved ones. I really had the most amazing summer. I was in Turkey where I did some paragliding. I was in Croatia, Slovenia, and Dubai. So it was a great summer and a lot of free time. And now we're back. So this fall, we bring you the most amazing stories that will help you grow, learn new things, and foremost, become a better person and a better leader. So enjoy, and I'm glad to be back. Now, let's go back to making Beyond Leadership podcasts. Listen to our next extraordinary guest. More and more companies are investing in HR directors, and you can see more and more companies as boards, management boards that have a member of the management board that actually comes from HR. So,
Yeah.
do you also see this trend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, already for the last 5, 7 years, we see a lot of companies who are having CHOs, so chief HR officers. Sometimes they are called chief leadership officer. They can also be sometimes chief transformation officer who are doing then some transformation and HR. Yeah, absolutely. I think, the companies realize that HR is not an admin function who is tracking who came to the job, who is on paternity and who wants to leave the company, but it's a strategic function, right? So I think the best companies in the world are having very strong HR.
Welcome to the Beyond Leadership podcast, where we host exceptional individuals and we discover new dimensions of leadership and their talents and recipes for success. Today, I have the privilege of hosting an amazing woman. She has also won an award for Exceptional Woman of Excellence by Women Economic Forum in Ljubljana. So, Melanie, welcome.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks a lot. The pleasure is on my side that I can be with you today in this, I guess, interesting discussion.
Perfect. So before we deep dive in our conversation and your amazing experience, insights, and all the things we're going to learn today, I want to introduce you to our audience. So Melanie is the managing director and partner at Boston Consulting Group. You already, probably most of the audience know what Boston Consulting Group is, but we will definitely deep dive for those who don't. You have more than 17 years of experience in management consulting with primary industry focus on consumer products and retail industry, as well as people and organization. You're involved in different professional organizations and associations. You've been a member of the Supervisory Board of Managers Association of Slovenia since 2008, and you held an amazing and really important position of the president of Women's Manager Association at the Managers Association of Slovenia for 6 years, so from 2014 to 2022. You're also the president of Slovenian IEDC Alumni Club from 2013 to 2022. And like I said, you're a recipient of many awards, among them Artemida Award presented by Managers Association of Slovenia, which is one of the highest Slovenian awards for women in business, so congrats. You also received an award and were the recipient of the IEDC Alumni Achievement Award. And most of all, you're just an amazing individual who has contributed and keeps on contributing to not only the global atmosphere, but also in Slovenia. So welcome.
Thanks a lot.
So I always, before I give you the microphone, I always like to start with a very, let's call it simple question. And let's continue. So if we were classmates, were you back then already in high school talking about people, leadership, management? What were you like in high school?
Oh, in high school, I would say I was talking mainly about parties. So I was a big party animal. And I think if I think about high school, I would really say that my main focus was how to convince my parents that they would allow me to go out Friday and Saturday. And basically, how would I be on top of all the parties which were happening in Ljubljana, but not just in Ljubljana, around Europe, there was partying and in that sense having fun.
Fantastic. So let's give our audiences and the community a little bit of an explanation what Boston Consulting Group is, and I'm just going to do an overview, and I'm going to ask you to please go deep dive more. So Boston Consulting Group is one of the top 3 biggest management consulting groups. You have more than 21,000 employees globally, close to 11 billion in revenue, which is amazing. But primarily, what is the focus of Boston Consulting Group, Melanie?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, right, we are a global multinational company, maybe just, you know, as a side note, over 25,000 employees, over 90 locations all around the world. Also present in Southeastern Europe, where Slovenia is, of course, one of the countries that we are covering. Yeah, and as you said, we are, I would say, one of the 2 biggest management consulting companies in the world, where we are focused in helping leaders, either in private sectors or in public sector, to change, I would say, the world into something better, right? We are working on different topics. I mean, we have specialized experts for all industries and for all functions that you name, yeah? So basically, if I have an automotive company, we can serve that automotive company easy because we have several hundreds or I guess even thousands of experts who are knowledgeable in that space. If there is a functional topic, like, I don't know, discussing people and organization topics in a company, we can serve that as well. So we do have really experts for all the spots, for all the content that our clients need. And we advise them on company level, but many times, as I said before, on country level. We are also one of the key partners of Davos, where we basically every year co-shape the agenda, what basically is very interesting for us because we have also the privilege then to talk with the top-notch leaders, either from the public sector or the private sector, where we basically discuss the current happenings, but also the happenings which are in front. So I would say we are trying to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to trends and situations that are influencing the businesses.
Great, thank you. So if we proceed and look at your position as a managing director and partner at Boston Consulting Group, I would imagine your day is very busy. So my question would be, what's your special sauce? How do you plan? How do you organize? What is your usual day like?
Oh, Mark, there is no usual day because every day is like a roller coaster when you work in this industry. So, you know, I'm always saying on recruiting when I talk to people, one of the questions is always how they envision our life, right? Because I would like to be sure that they understand that this is like really like a roller coaster. And if you are not into flexibility and I would say constant change, then you suffer in this business a lot. But now back to your question, Mark. So basically, how I survive my day or life on that way. First of all, I have a very, very, very structured, energized, and super capable assistant. Her name is Sam. And we also have now another assistant, Primoz, who is also helping me many times. But the main assistant is Sam, who is really synchronizing my agenda. And when I say synchronizing, is not just feeling it with meetings for next week, but she's basically having an overview from now till end of the year, where I am, when I sleep, when I eat, where I drive, with whom I talk. So whenever someone needs something, they understand that they need to talk with Sam first. On top, it's quite interesting that my husband is also managing director and partner at BCG. So basically, it means that he also has a very crazy life. And thank goodness we have a joint assistant. So she's synchronizing both of our calendars, nice. Where we then have with pink color marked protected time for both of us when we are with our small one, with our daughter, and when we are traveling or just privately being at home having breakfast or something like that. Yeah. So that's one point of help and synchronization. And then I'm also super happy that I have two great nannies, Irnea and Asia, who are helping me to take care for my daughter. And basically, whenever we need them, they're absolutely there. So, I think, I have a privilege that a lot of people are somehow helping me to survive every day and every week.
Amazing. I can just imagine that your schedule is extremely busy. But looking at your career path and your resume, which is extremely rich with a lot of experience, did you have like an aha moment, as they call it in the US, where you just said, okay, I want to go into this. I want to work with the best management consulting group. I want to work with companies. Was there an aha moment, or was there like a specific project that gave you, this is what I want to do?
I mean, I started my career, with the thought that I'm going to be a lawyer. And my aha moment was that I was watching in those years, but the young generation will not remember it. But in those years, there was some movies, some episodes called LA Law. So when I was watching LA Law and all these very important people being lawyers, I thought being a lawyer, that's quite cool, right? So, I thought, I need to do that. But of course, I did not put it into the perspective of Slovenia, where LA Law in Ljubljana is not maybe the same, I would say, size or even a challenge. And quite soon I realized that that's not going to be for me. Then I had a shorter journey in industry working around textile, which was interesting. But again, I didn't feel that aha moment that you just mentioned, Mark. But then I had the chance to go to MBA, where I had the chance to know a lot of different professors. And I spoke with several of them, if they can somehow tell me where I could fit, right? And one of the professors, Professor Nenad Filipovic, and also Dr. Danica Purg from IEDC, they both told me that since I'm so, I would say, flexible, and I like challenges and I like a lot of turbulence in my life, management consulting could be fun. So my aha moment was that back in 2004, I didn't have a clue what management consulting is. So, it was not so obvious to understand that. And then basically I had the chance to be recruited by another company where I started to work. And my aha moment in that moment when I started to work as a consultant was, wow, they are all so intelligent. All these men around me, they are all so intelligent. I hope that I will survive 1 year. That was my goal, to survive 1 year, that I have it in my CV. And then I'm going to find myself a normal job. But then, of course, I started to work and I was impressed and I was also triggered and I was also charmed with all the possibilities, right? And my first year, or actually my first few years as a junior consultant, I was a lot working in the region. And my first year and my first client was Gorenje. So I was sitting in the boardroom of Gorenje, a very, very young girl, and I saw all these board members coming in. And I thought, wow, these guys are so important and they rock, and look what kind of topics they are talking. And then basically, there was some question about some presentation. And I was doing the presentation, but I didn't know, am I allowed to speak up? Because I was just a junior, right? So I raised my voice and I started to present that one slide because the CEO, Mr. Franjo Bubinac, asked the question. So I needed to present. And then he asked, who are you? And I said, well, I'm one of the consultants, but I just came a few months ago. I'm junior. And then he said, well, you know what you are talking about. You know the numbers. You should be always in this boardroom and don't sit behind there. Come closer. And that was my aha moment. I thought, great. Wow, I can rock this business. This is my moment, right? And that was the turning point where I thought, maybe it's not just 1 year. Maybe I'm going to stay 2 years in this business. Wow,
amazing. So you work for a company that has a lot of business insights, trends, where the industries, specific industries are moving, which direction. And I want to take you back to when COVID started. I know that a lot of companies were in shock. I know that HR came to the forefront. A lot of companies started focusing on HR. And with that said, let's focus on diversity and inclusion. Now, this is a very important topic for you. So yeah. What kind of trends do you see? Please, let's deep dive in your amazing experience.
I mean, Yeah, COVID, changed quite a lot, right? It changed how we work, it changed how we shop, it changed how we are together with people, it changed how we communicate. I mean, we digitalized ourselves big time, even companies which are totally out of digitalization and where the command and control leadership style was still present, they also needed to change, right? And digitalize and leave people to work from home because they didn't have another chance. Now, by saying that, COVID, especially in situations and in companies where the management and also the leadership was not so much aware about the impact of COVID on people, did change quite a lot and did have quite a big negative impact. What we are seeing is that since COVID, people are much more, I would say, focused and more even sensitive. I could use the word sensitive when it comes to the loyalty towards the company. So we see that people within COVID period saw if their employee was adaptive and flexible and understood that I have two kids in the next room, my husband works from home, I need to cook in parallel and my dog is barking, or if the company was just, leading me as before. That all moved, I would say, the whole globe towards two interesting points, right? The first one is that we have a phenomenon that was never ever seen before, which is called the Great Resignation period. So many people as today who are resigning, we never historically saw that. And this is happening for the last 2 years, and it's still happening. Even now, when we say that COVID is quasi a little bit below the surface, it's still happening. Now, to come back to your point about diversity and inclusion and why this intro, in this group of big resignation, the biggest number of people who are in the group are high educated women who have also next to their job the focus on family. So they are not single, but they have, they need to be caregivers of family. In this group, we have also high educated men who are the first caregivers. So it means that they are sometimes, for example, single dads or dads who are, having a bigger responsibility towards the children and towards the household, right? So therefore, it's very interesting that COVID, made the situation with diversity and inclusion even more relevant, but also on the other side, made the pictures in the companies worse. Because in many companies, in many states, the numbers with diversity and inclusion are going down. However, and now the however comes, there are, of course, countries/companies which are pioneering in that regards, right? If I take, for example, from Eurostar, the latest numbers, there are countries like Iceland, France, Norway, even Italy, which are rocking, right? Where the management boards are super, I would say, balanced, and we have really a high share of diversity and inclusion, higher than 45%. On the other side, EU average is currently on 30%. And if I take, for example, Slovenia, we again dropped last year and we have 19%, 19. Wow. And now someone could say diversity and inclusion is just a number. Who cares if you don't have enough of women or men, if it goes in another extreme? But it has a huge impact. It has an impact on financial results of a company. It has an impact on GDP per capita. So it has a huge impact. So clever countries with clever companies and clever leaders are ultra focused on diversity and inclusion, and especially now in COVID, where the situation is not so trivial and needs to be even more, we need to have more focus on the topic.
What would you say? It's very interesting. I didn't know that the numbers were so low and we're below Europe average. So what would be, how could we improve? Would it be by education? What's your advice?
I mean, if you would ask me this question 15 years ago, I would say talk a lot about it, change management, positive marketing, PR, blah, 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 blah. Now I'm in the situation to say that I think we will need to have some legislation, because Slovenia had recommendations for the last 15 years and the things are getting worse. So if you ask me, we will need to have legislation. We will need to have the legislation which is basically pushing leaders on both country and government level, basically to have a balanced gender team. On the country level, so basically when we talk about the government, this is already seen, right? Because they have already a legislation how many women need to be represented in the parliament. On the company level, we don't have it yet. So I am very much in favor that we do it, because else my daughter will not have really equal chances as maybe your son if you have him. And I think that we are living in 2022 and this should not be the case.
I completely agree with you. I think we need to definitely focus more on this. And I think that there is a change. I don't know if you see it, but I think that there are more, the younger generations do have a better perception, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, also research is showing that the younger generation is not even talking anymore about diversity and inclusion as a, let's say, as a topic which is new. For them, this is a must-have and it's embedded in their thinking, right? When you have a young couple which is 22 years old, they are not discussing, that you need to cook lunch and I'm here just to fix the light if it's broken. It's, it's an equal, I would say, distribution of work. For sure, some things are more natural to one gender than the other. But on the other side, there is not anymore this old-fashioned view, right? What is also interesting that research showed that we were also running at BCG globally, that this younger generation, already actually not the total younger generation, but already generation Z and Y, for example, that they can really be good change angels. So for example, in a company who is fighting how to introduce D&I further, we are always recommending that the guys and the girls who should really push this across the company should come from the younger generation, because it's totally in their roots, right? Another fact which I also think is good whenever you need to fight with someone, why does it matter? I'm always also telling them, look, I mean, it does matter, because the young generation statistically will leave your company within 1 year if they see that you are faking diversity and inclusion. So basically on the poster or recruiting interview, you talk about it a lot. And then once they come to your company and they see the same profile of people, within 12 months, they're out. And if you want to grow as a business, you cannot afford to be without young people, right? So I think it's a very important topic.
I completely agree. What would you say? So with, like you mentioned earlier, with COVID came a lot of changes. One of them is definitely work from home.
Yeah.
So how would you see the trend in Slovenia? Because you obviously you work for a global company. And I would say that some parts of the world are maybe faster than Slovenia. So how do you see these trends, work from home, diversity and inclusion? Are we keeping up with the progress of the world, or are we really taking it slow?
No, in regards to D&I, I told you, I mean, we are below all the statistics, right? Below EU average, below everything, and really behind. And I hope that someone will wake up and do something in that matter. When it comes to other things, work from home, it's an interesting topic, right? Because when you talk about work from home, you will always find two different groups of opinion. You have a group of people who will say, wow, I love it. When I work from home, I'm super productive. I can also wash my clothes. I eat from home. I don't need to dress up. I just put a shirt below. I have my pajama and I love it, right?
Yeah.
The other group of people will say, oh shit, I really miss people interaction. I'm alone. I'm sitting here. Sometimes I can't even concentrate, and so on and so on. So the whole topic about work from home is causing a lot of open questions and a lot of headache to many leaders, to many HR directors. Why? Because we have two groups. One group of people, mainly group of people who already have a family and is a little bit, let's say, elder, if I can say so, maybe 30 plus, yeah. When there was COVID, they were all crying to go back to their job because they all thought that they will die because of the complexity and the kids running around and everything. When COVID stopped and they needed to come back, some of them needed to come back, at least part-time, not full-time. Yeah. When we were running a statistic and asking them again, how do you feel now? Are you more happy? The vast majority of them said no. I realize now that I'm more productive at home. Yes, it was not easy with the kids, but still I had a better balance, much better than today. On the other side, you have a group of people who are singles, who are not married, maybe not even in a relationship, and so on. Those guys were saying already in COVID time that this sucks, that they cannot be at home alone, and so on. And those guys are also now, when they are back at the office, saying, look, yeah, back in the office, great, but I also see now that it's better to be a little bit at home, or even it's better for me to have a combination, 50% at home, 50 from the office, right? So it's really a mix. It's a matter of age, of status of your life, also a little bit experience that you had. And then also, of course, it's a matter of what your company is giving you and what do they expect. We see a big drop and a big demotivation factor with companies who basically just ignore that COVID ever happened and just forced people, right, to come back from tomorrow on. I guess you saw the announcement also of Elon Musk, you saw Netflix, where they were saying, look, working from home, this is not work. You all need to come back. So we personally think at BCG, and also my personal opinion is that it's better to have a balance, a combination. Some work will for sure need to happen at the job, at the company, in a group session, in a bigger office, and so on, while some things can happen also from home, right? And you need to have this balance that people choose it and that they balance it somehow, because else we will have a problem. We should not forget that the biggest growth in depression and anxiety in the last 50 years happened in the last 3 years. It is a growth of 25%. So, can you imagine 25% of growing depression? It means that many people felt totally squeezed in the corner. And therefore, we as leaders need to have a model where people sort of select and we sort of adopt what is, of course, possible legally, but also technically, how people work. So I think we will never ever go back as we used to work. That's gone totally. We need to now just fix the new normal.
I completely agree. I think that the companies that won't adapt, won't adjust, will probably have huge problems with this. And you mentioned earlier quite a few times about the DNA, about the culture of the company. And I want to focus on you personally. So you have an extremely important position. What is the most important characteristic or skill that you look for a team? Like when you put a team together, what's really important for you in your eyes?
I mean, it's a double question, because on one side, when we are recruiting people, of course, I'm always looking, are the people, fitting in the team in terms of culture? Are they in that sense fitting? But then I also look in the fit from the fit perspective. Also, are they fitting in terms of their reference, their CV, their common sense as well, right? So I'm always trying to do these two things. For me, education is sort of a baseline, and then I need to see this cultural fit, but also this content fit. Let's call it like that. When I recruit or not recruit, when I basically staff a team on a project, because this is how we operate, right? Every project is another team, and it can be international, it can be local, it depends what we are doing. But when I put together a team, then I'm obviously always looking into experience that each and every one of them bring. And I also look into the diversity, right, of the team, either national diversity, age diversity, gender diversity. But the worst is, that I run a project with 6 people who are all identical, because, then, I have a monologue, with identical people. So, for me, this is quite important. And I think that we owe that to our clients, because they are paying us also for creativity. And creativity is a result of diversity, right? And therefore, it's super important. So when I composition a team, or when I recruit the team in my company, this is also the same. Before I mention this common sense, I'm a very strong believer in this common sense, because I think that a lot of things can be taught. But if you don't have really a good common sense with a combination of curiosity and passion to be every day better, then also the best paper from the best school can't help you, because then it's then you will not be able to use it properly in a very dynamic environment in which we are playing.
I completely agree. Now let's go to the opposite side. So we've discussed about the team, what do you think it's important, the skills. What do you think, or how do you think, has your leadership style changed throughout the years? Because now a lot of topic is about authentic leaders, open leaders that don't micromanage. So how has your leadership style changed when you were growing throughout your career?
Oh, I mean, it changed a lot, right? Because, the higher you grow, the more you also need to start delegating. So being a micromanager is almost impossible. you know? No, but, joke aside, I think, when I was younger, since I was working in a heavy dominated men industry, because in those years when I started to work as a consultant, there were almost no women, right? Today, this is not the case anymore, but in 2000s, beginning of 2000, I mean, it was few women in the industry, not just in the company. So when I started to work, and it was a quite masculine environment, my leadership, and I started then to run, let's say, project as a project manager. My leadership style was very masculine. I tried to be a man. I was wearing black suits with a white shirt. I had always flat shoes. I even had the feeling that when I look myself now back in the mirror, that I was even using a lot of man phrases in order to be accepted, right?
Yeah.
And I also was always somehow hiding this feminine side of myself, and I was quite tough. I was maybe even tougher than I should be, but again, because I wanted to somehow stand shoulder to the guys, right? And therefore I thought that I need to be very tough. So I was very tough, top down leadership style, micromanager, controlling everything, and so on. The more I was growing, the more I realized on myself what kind of leaders I personally admire and what kind of leaders I look at and think, no, thank you. And I immediately recognized some patterns, and those patterns affected me personally a lot. And I also realized that I'm good. I'm good in the things that I'm doing. People like me, clients appreciate me. So I put it aside totally my men's style. And I remember like yesterday that one day I came home, I opened my closet and I moved out. I remember it was 11 suits, all in dark blue and black.
Wow.
And I throw them out and I throw out all shirts and everything. I physically threw it out. Yeah. And I think that I was, I guess, maybe a principal at that time, so quite many years ago. And since then, I never ever wore a black suit or a dark blue suit. You will never ever see me in a suit. And the next day, I came to my job in a red dress. Still very professional, right? Not too much feminism, but very professional. But everyone was staring at me because they were not expecting it. And then I became, aware that I need to be myself, and my leadership style changed. So, what I'm saying is, I became, I think, less micromanager. I am known as being very pragmatic. I'm known that I have a story in my head that I would like to, somehow approach either in a document or in a discussion. But then I also give quite some freedom. Of course, I still control the quality because that's my job and I will always need to do it. But, I'm also open if the teams have another approach or another perspective. I'm always open to listen and adapt my thinking in that sense. I am still having a lot of temperament. So if something pisses me off, I will tell it immediately. So the team know, okay, now the tornado came to the office. But 5 minutes later, I laugh with them and I go for a coffee and I tell them, okay, cheer up. It's not drama. We will fix it. Let's now focus how we can fix the mistake, right? So I'm not a person who would now kill the team or someone individually when there's a mistake. I'm just somehow trying to calm it, fix it, and let's move on. Yeah. I try to lead with integrity, and I like to be fair to the people. So I give also tough feedback. So I'm not saying that I'm sugarcoating, but they're always fact-based, and I hope that they always help someone to become even better.
That's great that you mentioned about being honest and giving the feedback, because my next question was a lot of times we talk about, they call it the sandwich feedback, where you basically give something good, then bad news, then something good again. But I'm more of a person that likes to give straight feedback. So what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, different people would say different things. I'm also straightforward, right? I cannot do the sandwich stuff. I'm too nervous for that because I'm always, I'm very efficient, right? And I think also effective. So, I don't have a lot of time for a lot of intro talks. I mean, I give the feedback to the point directly. Good feedback immediately, bad feedback immediately. So I'm not a person who would now sleep 3 days and meditate 2 hours and then I come to Mark and give him the feedback. No, I will tell immediately what's my opinion. And I'm also going to always argument it, right? I'm not going to say just I like it and I didn't like it, but I'm going to give you a proper feedback. What was good, what I liked, what I didn't like, where I thought something else will happen, and so on. I think it's a personal style, right? If you a person with a lot of temper, like I am, more a Mediterranean style of person, then I guess that comes in a package, right? So yeah, that's my answer.
Great, I love it. So I want to touch on the topic. We're all in the world of innovation, and obviously BCG is one of the leaders. You follow all the global trends, you know what's happening, and a lot of times you'll hear company leaders talk about mistakes that need to happen. So what's your opinion? My personal opinion is that when you try to innovate, obviously mistakes are going to happen and they're good for the company, but they don't need to repeat themselves, or they shouldn't.
I mean, obviously, when it comes to innovation, there needs to be a lot of mistakes because if there are not a lot of mistakes on the way towards the innovation, then I guess it's not an innovation. Then it's maybe just, a copy of something, right?
Yeah.
So, I personally think, that when people work towards something good and they fail, it's always good. That's a good process because they for sure learn something and they should fail and then they should pick up themselves and they should start again. What I think could be a frustration if they don't have a mentor, if they don't have a mentor who is telling them a little bit and helping them in understanding the process. Because, if we now visualize three young engineers trying to do something, they flop, they flop, they flop. No one even looks at the process. No one even talks with them. And someone is just yelling on them that they are spending money. Then, of course, that's not the right process. So what I'm saying is, if you have a mentor, if you together then with the person discuss the process, understand what was good, where you failed, what you learned, what could be different next time, then the next time, the next iteration will be for sure better. I mean, we work also at BCG with the logic of minimum viable product. So it means that the first version of a very important, for example, document, which can go sometimes to the workers' council, sometimes to the government, sometimes to some investment banks, sometimes to the owners, will come to me as a senior and to my senior fellows in the form of an MVP with many stickers, with many questions, with many, bubbles around. And then we start the discussion. And then while we discuss, we jointly also co-create many times. And then the junior team can take it from there, make a different interaction. And then the next version of the document is for sure 30% better. I think if all goes in that direction is fine. Where it's not fine, if things are not going towards a better forward-looking step, but they are going backwards, right? Yeah. And that is in the case when people are not taking for real or seriously the feedback, or they are not acting upon the feedback. In that case, then, of course, we are losing time, energy, and money as well. That's not good. And that is not encouraging for a company or for a leader. But everything else is a must-have process today. We need to do it like that.
I absolutely agree. They say if you fail, you need to fail fast so you can keep yourself up and go up.
And sometimes I would say even hard, right? So that you learn even more.
True. That's true. So you mentioned mentorship and being a mentor. I know that a lot of people look up to you. They consider you their mentor. So I wanted to ask you, and I'm also a huge fan. I have mentors and I've had them through all my life. Was there a specific person or persons that you had in your life as mentors?
I had, the privilege, since I'm now 20 years working for American companies, that basically, and these are big companies with system, which is always very defined and so on, that I had many mentors, really many mentors. And some of them were officially assigned to me as mentors, And basically I had the chance to work with them. Some of them I selected, some of them, I just found them, we met somewhere, I asked them, could you be my mentor? They said yes. And then, sort of a relationship started. And I'm a person who tries to learn from every person something. Yeah. So, it's also when I'm a mentor to a mentee, I always try to get something also for myself out of it, because else it could be, in that sense, it could be for me too much of giving of energy and I would not get it back. And I believe that every relationship needs to be giving and taking back. So, in that sense, I cannot say that one mentor changed my life. I would say that all mentors and all mentees changed my life. I also had bad mentees and also bad mentors.
Mm-hmm.
For me, when I had a mentee relationship outside my company, because I'm also a mentor in many associations, right?
Yeah.
Like pro bono. And there was a mentee, who came to me to the office, and I asked her what she wants to work with me, what are the topics and so on. And it was very clear to me after 5 minutes of discussion that she wants to work with me because she thinks that through me, she will get the mortgage easier at the bank. And, I was looking at her and thinking, but wait a second, this is not mentor-mentee relationship, this is totally something else,
Yeah.
And the way how she positioned the relationship and the way how she talked with me was clear that it's about, using me, not in a positive sense, but in a negative, right?
One-way street.
So this is then not a relationship. This is then not something where I give my energy and you take it and you give me your energy and I take it, because it doesn't work like that.
I agree. I think it needs to be a two-way street. Obviously, you can learn as a mentor, and obviously, if I'm a mentee, I can learn as well. So let's go back to the people and organization. I've noticed the trend, and I want to double check with you because you're an amazing person. You have more knowledge, so that more and more companies are investing in HR directors, and you can see more and more companies as boards. Management boards that have a member of the management board that actually comes from HR. So do you also see this trend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, already for the last 5-7 years, we see a lot of companies who are having CHOs, so chief HR officers. Sometimes they are called chief leadership officer. They can also be sometimes chief transformation officer who are doing then some transformation and HR. Yeah, absolutely. I think, the companies realize that HR is not an admin function who is tracking who came to the job, who is on paternity and who wants to leave the company, but it's a strategic, it's a strategic function, right? So I think the best companies in the world are having very, very strong HR. And also, if I take, for example, our company as a case, I'm not sure if you know, but BCG is one of the best employers around the world. And we are always fighting with Google for number one, right? So it's every year a big competition. But among the top 10 companies, there is no other consulting company. So it's really us always on the top. But when I look, why is it so? I mean, the time, the number of hours and minutes and people that we invest in internal HR processes, either to develop internally or to recruit and retain people, it's incredible. I mean, it's really incredible. If I take yesterday, I was yesterday sitting on a principal committee where we were, talking principals, from Central Europe and discussing, development needs, promotion, and so on. And this is one cohort of people, just one cohort of people. I think it was roughly, 15, 20 managing directors and partners who are discussing that for the whole day. Can you imagine how much money that is that we as a company invested in just one day? And we as a team need to prepare all the dossiers, need to talk with everyone, need to talk with all the projects where the person worked. It's a huge amount of work that we do. But this we all do in order to be fair, to be transparent, to understand where, I don't know, where is Peter, where is he positioned, where does he needs to develop, what kind of training does he need, is he ready for the next role, and so on and so on. And I think, if you have this kind of mechanism, where the HR processes are so well defined internally and externally, then you can also say that you are the best employer. And then you don't have also the problem, to find people, even though I must say, if I'm honest, in some countries, we still have a problem to find people. And unfortunately, one of them is also Slovenia.
Let's move on. Let's proceed. And I want to really focus and get to know you as a person. So what do you do?
Now the nasty part starts.
Yeah. The personal
Okay.
part. But we'll proceed with business and pleasure as well. So
good.
As a person, like how do you deal with a lot of with stress in general? Like what's your way out?
I mean, if you would ask me 2 months ago, I would tell you sport, right? Because that's my mechanism how to put stress out. I worked out 5-6 times a week. I like different sports. I like climbing, mountaineering. I like running. I like playing tennis. Very very different sports. However, 2 months ago, I got an injury on my back. So the last 2 months, my sport is physiotherapy and no other sport, which is, I would say, definitely not the best period of my life. But I hope that it will be better, and I stay positive that I will be again able to do sport once I fix my back.
I'm pretty positive because your way of thinking and the energy are truly amazing. So when we talked about stress and how people cope with, I know there's a lot of companies that are in stressful situations due to COVID, and now there's a change coming, a recession, and so on. So can you give us a couple of examples how BCG can help? I know that you can help with legal structure, establishing processes, business transformation. So can you just give us a couple of examples so the community gets a better understanding of your business?
I mean, we are working not just when there is a tough environment in terms of what we are seeing now, but we work for clients also when there is great time, right? So when there is growth and honey and milk everywhere and everyone is happy. So we are working in both scenarios. So we are known for being tier 1 top management consultant company, and we can tackle basically every challenge that the client has, and we like challenges. And it can be, I don't know, we can help when a company is buying another company, we're preparing the scenarios of a potential transaction. We can help to merge the companies, to do a post-merger integration. We can help in HR topics, change management, corporate culture, process optimization, defining a new governance model, new operating model, for example. But we can also help to define an e-commerce strategy for a consumer goods company, or a COX program in retail, or now EFG strategy for a large multinational company. These are just some, that I'm mentioning. As said before, when you have this kind of brain power, and these are all high educated people, because our recruiting process is very tough. We have a very standardized global recruiting process, so the filter to come through is really tough. And when you have 25,000 people, those kind of people, then, you can really tackle all challenges you want. So, it's whatever a client needs, we can basically solve.
Nice. Great. Okay, let's go to the juicy part.
Good.
So tell me a little bit about yourself in terms of what's your favorite book, what kind of TV series you like to watch.
I'm a little bit untypical here, right? Because my favorite book is typically a book that I would read at that moment, or something which is, I don't know, I guess connected with a certain period of life, The Little Prince is a book that I always have around, and I looked at it many times. I see some stories in this book from different angles, but I'm not in that sense a traditionalist that I would have top 3 books. Every period in my life has another book. And this period now, currently, I read a lot of children books. I just gave an interview a few weeks ago to one of the Slovene daily news, and they were also asking me the question. So at that point, I was reading other books, but now I'm, for example, studying a lot about Montessori, because I'm just thinking where to put my child in kindergarten. And about TV series, since I work and then every second I run home to be with my daughter, I watch TV very, very late in the night. When I stop working, for example, Mia goes to bed between 9:30, and then many times I open my laptop again. And then, you know, before I finish, and then around 11:30, I need something to relax my brain. And that's typically when I chase Netflix. And, you know, I saw, I guess, a lot of series, but one of them that I liked a lot is The Crown. And, you know, it's also interesting that you ask me now, since she died yesterday, Her Majesty, which is, I guess, I don't know. It's an interesting moment because it's the end of an era, I would say, and an interesting era. And I guess it's going to be interesting to see how the future of UK will look like. Yeah. So much about books and movies.
Okay, so what about favorite food or favorite destination?
Oh, favorite food, Mark. You know, this we could have a 6 hour discussion. I'm a foodie, right? You know, wherever I travel, I go to the best restaurants. This is something where I'm not saving money on. It's something which is really something almost like a hobby, a passionate hobby. Yeah? So I think that I saw many restaurants around the globe, Michelin star restaurants, but also street food restaurants, you know, whatever is recommended. So I'm a big fan of very good food, but it can be in different dimensions. Yeah. So I enjoy eating on Baš Čaršija Čvapčići, as I enjoy being at Tomaž Kaučić, as I enjoy being, you know, in some restaurants abroad, which are maybe a little bit different in that context. So I like to eat, and therefore I need sport. And destination, you asked me about destination. My favorite destinations, I had the privilege to travel with my job a lot, but also privately we travel a lot as a family. But I love the most my vacation on Alaska. That would be one location. Second would be a summer on Hawaii. And the third location would be closer to us, which is Iceland.
Nice, nice. Let's go to one question I love to ask. So you've worked with a lot of CEOs, entrepreneurs, global leaders, and this is a two-part question. First, is there like a favorite you have, or a person that like was influenced you, they influenced you the most? And the second part would be, do they have something in common, all the successful CEOs, leaders that you noticed?
I mean, it's very hard for me to say, you know, who of the entrepreneurs or CEO, you know, did impact me or something like that, right? Because, you know, each of them, and I really, if I would count, I even don't know anymore how many I know. It's many of them, eh? You know, each of them, you know, is special in something, yeah. But, you know, I think if I would look in what is common, you know, what's the pattern that I see common? One thing would be that there are typically, the vast majority of them are futurist. The vast majority of them start to talk about the topic that half of the management board is looking at them and not even following, because their brain is already somewhere else, either in terms of innovation or in terms of customer or in terms of market. You know, they are typically three, you know, I would say 3 steps ahead of the curve. And then the second thing that really the good ones also have is this, I would say, gravitas, this charisma, you know, a charisma when the guy comes in the room and, you know, with the way how he tells the story, with the way how he inspires the people, he pulls people like, you know, like a magnet, you know, and people follow him, you know, or her, yeah. And then the third thing is, of course, content. If you don't have a clue about the business that you're running, it's quite hard. Also the charisma, né? And also the futurism is not helping you, so you need to have the content behind.
Interesting. So if we go on your phone right now, what's the most used app or apps?
Oh, the most used app in the last 2 to 3 years was for sure Duolingo, because my husband and myself, we started to learn for a new foreign language. I selected Italian, so it was Duolingo. Wow. And then since I'm a fashionista on top, it's also a lot of fashion pages. Yeah, I like fashion. Yeah.
Interesting.
This my husband is not doing.
Not yet. No,
not yet.
So we've come to my final question, and based on your amazing experience, you being a really fantastic individual with a lot of different amazing views, because you work for an amazing, huge company, that is a global company. So what would be your final advice or 3 pieces of advice that you would give to either younger entrepreneurs or already established leaders?
Well, it's now a different question, right? Because, to the young people, I would say, and I will use our local language since, it's in my head so much embedded, it's red, rad, disciplina, right? So I really believe, that this discipline and this hard working and being really focused on the things that you want can bring you far away, and young people should really think, a little bit also strategically, not just from today on tomorrow, but, what would they like to be known in 5-10 years? And I know as a young person, it's hard because, typically the life brings you somewhere and then you are where you are and then you try to swim around. But I still think, that this hard work and discipline is something as a must, yeah? And then to already established leaders, I would say don't forget on people because, we talk a lot about energy crisis, food crisis, inflation, stagnation, blah, blah, blah. But, many times then people forget on people, right? And every company, every success is built on people. It's not on machinery. It's not on something. So I think, established leaders should really lead with integrity, lead with example. They should walk the talk. They should take time for people. They should not delegate those tasks to HR, but they should take time. And they should be aware that they create the culture. Whenever an established leader is telling me, oh, Melanie, my culture is bad, and I'm telling him every fish smells from the top. So if the culture is bad, then you are part of the problem. You are part of the problem, your leadership style. So let's start talking about that. So that would be my advice.
Great. And it comes hand in hand really with, I asked you for your favorite quote, and you said that your favorite quote is actually from Gandhi, which is, be the change that you wish to see in the world.
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
So, my dear listeners, I had the pleasure of hosting an amazing person. She's a leader, she's a mentor, she's a lecturer, and she's a managing director and partner at Boston Consulting Group. So, Melanie, thank you very much for joining us and for your precious time.
Thanks a lot, Mark. It was nice to be with you today here.
Spremljate nas na vseh 13 kanalih, kot so Spotify, Apple, Google, Castbox in pa tudi YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram in pa Facebook, kjer imamo že ogromno skupnost, kjer nas je preko 2000. Imamo pa tudi novo spletno stran beyondleadership.si. Se že veselimo vaših novih poslušanj in pa dogodivščin.